Okay, so domain, is that X's or Y's? We're reviewing for our final exam here. So we got X's for the domain and Y's for the range. Okay, now I need to list out the possible X's.
6, 3, 0.
Is that it?
Yes.
Does it have to be in any particular order?
No.
No, it does not.
No.
Okay, enough with the shenanigans.
No, you're telling us.
Okay, enough. Okay, so do I have to copy down the 3 again and the 6 again? No, I do not, because you're only listing the possible values. What about range?
-8,
3, 1.
So just those 4 numbers? You are correct. Okay, now, deciding whether something is a function is a matter of checking to see whether it passes the vertical line test. Remember, we abbreviated that VLT. Paying attention?
Can't we just look at it and figure it out?
Yeah, we can.
Can we just do that way?
But I'm telling you, a sketch kind of helps. You know, you got 1, -6. There's a point. 1, -6. You got 5, -6. Are those 2 points on the same vertical line?
Yes.
No, they're not.
Wait, vertical. Oh,
Vertical line. No, they're not.
I'll think of it.
Yes. Then there's 722. You know, something like this. 722. Something like way up there. Under modules, final exam review. And it was closed. It does not look closed. It looks like we are going to die, folks. Let's not do that. Okay, then we have 8, -2. And 8, 15. And lastly, we got them all. Anything fail the vertical line test? Yes? Right there. We got a problem, right? You could see it in the table, and, you know, Mr. Morris, you said, can you just see it? The answer is yes. If you have a single domain that's going to 2 different range values, that's a problem. All right, so this fails the vertical line test. Therefore, it is a big fat no. Did you get the domain and range written down? Not you, I know you got it. Okay, you need to write an equation for me for this problem. We've got 5 CDs that cost $23. That's the group that you're buying. After that, you spend $3 for every CD. 3x plus 23. Let's see if we agree with that. 3x plus 23. So my first group of 5 CDs would cost $23, and then everything after that costs $3 a piece. I do agree with that. What are we going to plug in for x if we want 13 CDs? Those of you who made a mistake on this question earlier in the year, you actually plugged in 13. Ah, we take away the 5, right? So we want 8 at the price of $3 plus 23. So how much is it going to cost me before tax? $47. That's true. Yep. Okay, find the domain and range. Okay, we talked about how domain, we push all the values onto the x-axis and we decide how much of the x-axis would get covered. All of it, huh? Which one of the answer choices says that? Which one did you say? D is correct. Negative infinity to infinity. Now range. Push all the values to the y-axis, which means we would start here and go up. You may if you fill out a pass.
I'm getting 3.
3 something? What does that mean? 3 something? Yeah, you can use one of those. Oops. Which one of those ranges says we'll start at 3 and go up forever and ever and ever? Choice A, that is correct. Is that a function, yes or no? Does it pass the vertical line test? What do you think? Does that pass the vertical line test? If you pass a vertical line through it, it only hits one point at a time, right?
I think it
Yep,
does.
that
Yes, it
is
does.
true.
Yes.
That is true. It is a definite yes. So, good work.
And this is
Uh-huh. That's I try to make the chunks. Okay, so yes, you've got your chapter 6 final exam tomorrow. Then we're going to be studying for the next one. So Thursday we test. Friday we're reviewing chapter 10, which is sequences and series. Okay. Okay, now what are they asking me to do in part A? Add the two expressions together, right? No, they're not asking me to multiply. They're asking me to add them together. And if I add them together, what am I going to be getting? 8x plus 2 is correct. Thank you. Now, the next question I have is the second part. Can I plug 9 into my answer for part A? Or should I go back and plug 9 into each of the individual functions and then add them together? Or does it matter? It does not matter. Unless you screwed up part A. If you screwed up part A and you use it, I mean, if you want to be safe, you'll come back to these two problems and plug your 9 in there, and then you'll add them together, okay? But if you trust yourself, then you can go straight from here, and what should you be getting? 74. So it really doesn't matter to me which way you go with this. Okay? Question 6. What am I being asked to do? Not only plug in 8, but do what with after I've plugged in 8 to both of them? Multiply them together. So if I take 8 and plug it into the first one, and plug in 8 to the second one, then I'm supposed to multiply those two things together. What's the first one give me? 64 plus 40 is what? 104, right? Okay, now we're multiplying that times what? Times negative 1, right? So what's my final answer? Negative 104. So question 7. I've got 4x plus 5, and I'm dividing by what? X squared minus 7x plus 10. I'll answer your question here in a second because it's a good one. So let's factor that denominator because we've been doing that a bunch lately with these rational functions, right? What happens when we factor that? -5 and -2. So here's my question. Is anything canceling? No, nothing's canceling. So at first you might think, oh, that was a big waste of time. There was my answer. However, if you don't do that, you will not be able to answer the second question, which is, what is the domain of that? Now, for those of you who answered my extra credit restrictions on the last test, can you tell me what the restrictions of that are? 5 and 2, correct. You look at that denominator and you can tell that 5 and 2 are the restrictions. Okay, now answer the domain question. Which one? Does that start with, is that B for boy or D for dog? D, you are correct, sorry. Okay. Yep. There wasn't anybody to contradict you on that one, so you're lucky. But you're correct. It is choice D. But the restrictions there helped you answer the domain question. It's true, nothing canceled out, but you still had that. Now, is this question about multiplication? Is this question about multiplication? No, it is composition. Thank you. And I recommended that you put parentheses in there like this. What are we supposed to do with the -4 first? Plug it into the g function, right? So I've got -4 squared plus 5. -4 quantity squared plus 5. $21. Thank you very much. This becomes f of 21, right? What am I supposed to do with the 21? Plug it into the f function. So -2 times 21 minus 1 is -2 times 21 minus 1. I got a vote for -43. Can I get a witness? Amen. Motion is passed. -43. Okay, you're probably right. Well, thank you for educating me. What does this mean? Up, down, left, or right? That is up. On the outside is when you're going to get the up and down motion. It has to be on the inside of the radical before it would be left or right. Which picture is it? A is correct. It's the only one that has been shifted up 2. Okay, which way is this one moving? Right. Inside, it's going to look backwards from your common sense. Which graph is moving at right 9? D. All right, now, draw a basic cube root function. Just a basic cube root function. Doesn't have to be fancy, but draw a basic cube root function. Just a quick sketch of what a basic cube root function looks like. Not a parabola, a cube root function. Draw a quick cube root function. Like we know a square root looks like this, right? Positive square root looks like this. I want a cube root. Draw a picture somewhere of the basic cube root. Googling it is cheating.
G. It's already
No. Found one, didn't you? Where'd you find it?
well,
This question, isn't it?
yeah.
If you pay any attention to the digital or printed version of this question, the answer to my question about a basic sketch is already in this one. Which is it? Where is it? So those of you looking at the digital or printed version do not know where a basic sketch of this is.
I know.
It is choice C. C is the basic one, right?
You said that.
C is definitely not the answer to my question here, but it is I asked you to sketch one, that's what it would look like. All right, now, what's going on
Outside the box.
right there?
Down.
That is going down. Shifting down 6 units. And that is choice A. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sticky with the tab.
Okay, 12. Pick which one it is. It really won't take you long to figure it out. The x plus 4 means what? Left 4. The minus 1 means down 1. Which is the only graph that has that characteristic. Choice B is the only one of the bunch that has been moved left 1 and down 4, or left 4 and down 1. Whoa, come on, stop it. Stop it. Me? Of course. Of course, I grew up in the 80s. I remember the Brady Bunch. Dun 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 dun. Here's a story of a lovely lady. Okay, what was that about?
What? No.
Oh. Random question of the universe. Did you watch the A-Team?
Did we talk about the 1880s or the...
Oh. Wow.
Wow.
And he just demonstrated his intelligence. Okay. All right.
What?
Mm-hmm. What's the domain of that? Something about -4, yes.
X.
Oh, X. X. X is less than? Greater than? How about equal to?
X is equal to 6. Or
4?
Negative.
How about -4? Now that is one way I would take the answer. There are 2 other ways I would take the answer. One of them would look like this if you're one of those kind of people. If you notice the type of writing or the things that they have written on other questions, if you wrote it like one of those, I would be taking that as well. What about the range? I'll give you a hint. It's about the y's. Y is greater than or equal to -1. Do you agree or disagree with that? Since you wrote it down. See, the cool thing is I can erase it pretty quickly. Yeah. Yeah. So, are you disagreeing? Are you saying I should change it?
No, I already wrote it down.
All right, you were right. Y is greater than or equal to -1. Okay? And if you were writing that in the other formats, you could write it like that, or you could write it like this. I would take either one of those. Any one of those. Okay, what does it mean to, what does it mean for something to be an inverse? You switch what? Switch x and y. Okay, so out of my tables down here, which one of those? B switches x and y. Yes, we need a reflection across which line? It is not the x-axis. What do we call that line right there? Y equals x. Uh-huh, sure.
X and Y.
X and y. Okay. So, fight. Okay, so we do look for the reflection across that line. That's what happens when you switch x and y. Speaking of switching x and y, pick which one of those has that similar property of a reflection across the line y equals x. Which one?
What did it ever do to you?
Oh yeah, traumatized your youth.
I mean, like, that is math English. I got it. Whoa. I'm not very into it. I like it. Cool. That's your opinion. Do I know about it? No. Stop. This is over the X and Y.
Okay. The blue one represents the original. Okay. What do you know about the original one? It has been moved which way?
Right one.
Right one. Correct, Mr. Fine? Okay. Right one. Out of those choices, which one of those blue graphs is completely incorrect? That one's been moved to the right one. That one's been moved to the right one. That one's been moved to the right one. D has not been moved to the right one. That's a bad choice. A, B, and C, right? So now, which one of those causes that reflection to happen? Remember how we talked about this? And then when we did the reflection, looked like that. It goes from U to C. Yep. Utah, California.
Now, that's not true the other way. Utah, and your side. Utah is more right, California is more left. Stop being confident. There you go.
Nope. That ain't it, Chief.
Well, I would say, what if you said that ain't it, Chief? How weird is that?
Everybody in the room should be able to answer this question in a matter of 5 seconds.
Zero. Is it 1? Infinity.
Okay? But so far, 3 classes have looked at me and not known how to answer this question. Okay, now, what we have here is a composition of 2 functions, and it says that one of those functions is the inverse of the other one. Okay, now, suppose that Mr. Elkert here has $5 in his pocket. Okay, let's suppose he's got $5. I'm going to perform 2 operations that are inverses of each other. Okay? All right, now. So here's operation number 1. I give him $1. Okay, then operation 2, the inverse, I take the $1 away. How much money does he have? The same amount that he started with. So folks, if these are inverses and you're asked to plug in -9, your answer should be -9, folks. That was the simple question because they are. It's all about you understanding that composition of 2 inverse functions that cancel each other out. You know what? We could go through the algebra of doing that. I could have you find the inverse function. I could have you plug in -9. Then you take that number out of that and plug it into the original function. It would be a huge waste of time and you would get -9 anyway. Okay, 16. Yes. You can walk, just fill out a pass. All right, what do we do with x and y? What do we do? We're finding an inverse. What do we do with x and y? Switch them, right? So we have x equals y cubed. Only one thing left to do. How do we got to get y by itself. A cube root, right? Pick the answer which is correct. D. Is the inverse a function? Okay, all right, let's remember the graph we just drew a few seconds ago, something like that. Does it pass the vertical line test? It sure does. That's a big yes. Okay. If you did these in digital format, please make sure you saved them so you don't lose them for tomorrow. I'll open up 10.1 and look at that with you right now. But I do need to get it into Canvas because I don't think I have it in Canvas at the moment. So we got a 10 times 1 plus 5. What did you get? 15. And what's next? Yep, you know what? Hopefully what you would see is that there's a common difference. What's the common difference between the terms since this is arithmetic? 10. Where do you see that in the formula? That's the slope, isn't it? So it shouldn't be that hard to fill in the other ones, right? Once you understand the pattern. Write a recursive definition for this sequence. 4, negative 12, 36, negative 108, 324. Is it geometric because it's jumping back and forth between positives and negatives? Are we multiplying here or are we adding? We are definitely multiplying. What are we multiplying by? Any term divided by the previous term, right? And you are correct, it is negative 3. So I'm getting rid of any choice where it looks like we are adding 16 or subtracting 16, because that just is not true. Why can't I get rid of this one? Because the first term is positive 4. Yeah, we can get rid of F. Which? The 3 is positive down in letter H. It has to be this one. Because we are multiplying by a negative number. Okay, write an explicit formula for that. Explicit formula. Now, why is letter E definitely a bad choice? And letter B a bad choice? That's exactly right. It's not explicit. It's a recursive. Is it letter F? Let's see here. If I plug in a 1, I'm supposed to get 2. So let's see. A sub 1 and 2 times 1, that would be 2. But A sub 2 would be 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, that's looking good so far. A sub 3 equals 2 times 3 is 6. Oh, man, that's not it. A, 2 to the n minus 1. Let's see, if I plug in, what happens if I plug in a 1? We're going to get 2 to the 0. Anybody know what 2 to the 0 is? 1. Because the first term is not 1, it's 2. It is D. That is correct. Now, letter A was a reasonable shot. I will tell you that. It just started with the wrong number. So that wasn't a bad choice. What's the 8th term? The 8th term, 2 to the 8th. Let's see. Yep, 256 it is. Right. Okay, so that's all the 10-1 questions that I'll be asking you.